There we are. Hey, everybody. Looks like we're live. Get set up on my all messages here. Get set up on all messages here. All right. The Zine Machine and Eugene, how are you? Art Knight, Bobby, how are you? Steve, Dade, how are you guys? All right, we actually have maintenance to do tonight. I don't really have a good setup established for how I'm going to do my live streams yet, but I have been shopping around. I'm going to find a little table that I can put my junk on over here. Right now, we're still stacked on buckets, but we will get through it. Let's get right into it and get some feeding done. Again, we are going to do some maintenance tonight. I want to do a big water change and vac, mostly a vac. On this tank here, we're going to get the glass wiped down and freshen up that water because it's getting really tannin stained. And there's a lot of crud in the bottom. I want to get out of there. So I already did a big water change to the discus tank. In fact, I just finished about 15 minutes ago, and that tank's looking sharp. I did a really big water change. I got the glass all cleaned down. Unfortunately, while I was in there, I discovered the remains of one of the orange discus. So one of the orange discus that we've been seeing about is still in there, and the other one that I have not seen since the day we put it in is apparently no longer with us. I found a bunch of ribs and some vertebrae, and there was a big pile of what looked like bones with some white meat still on it, and so I'm assuming that's the last remains of that discus. I don't know what else it would be. And I think tonight I'm going to put some floating cichlid pellets in the, or some floating goldfish pellets in the tower to see if I can't get some fish to go up inside there. Maybe if they figure it out, they'll go over there and try to get in. And just for good measure, we can put a little bit of fish food in there too, so they know it's there, because this will all swirl around and sink. But it'll get them over in the area. All right. You can have a little watch of that for a while. I'm going to continue working on my mushroom tea. I have figured out that if I do even relatively small doses, but I just swoosh the tea down all in one go, it all gets into my system all in one go, and it's like getting slammed in the brain with a brick. But if I work my way through it so that I'm not even finished the glass of tea by the time the first bits of it are already starting to affect me, it rolls on over like a 45-minute period, and it's a lot smoother. Pond puppies, how are you? I don't actually know how much snow we got, because by the time I went out and measured it, it had been sleeting for several hours, and the sleet really packs the snow down. But I had 6 inches right outside my back door, and it was all icy and sleety. Fortunately, we're not getting the freezing rain, so we're not getting that coating of like hard, solid ice. We're just getting the, accumulation of sleet. Let me turn my app on and we'll see if we can zoom in on that. My plan worked, apparently. Well, there's a pretty good demonstration of why you don't keep koi in a 6-gallon fish tank. All right, so if you are just joining us, we are going to be doing some tank maintenance here tonight after we get everybody fed. So we're not going to spend too much time on the feeding. We will spend a little bit of time on the pond because it's looking good. I topped it off. I got the air bubble out of the tower. And, of course, now we got the fish swimming up into the tower. So we'll enjoy this for a little bit. And then we'll move on. We'll get everybody fed. And then we got some work to do on 125, although I may just start doing the water change on that as we're done feeding it. I don't know if you guys want to watch a tank drain, but I will get in there and do some gravel vacuuming and stuff like that. So I'll put the camera on me while I'm doing that. I'm going to rescape that 40 and do something else with it. I don't know what yet. I'm really leaning, well, I should say I was really leaning towards a polypterus or a, hang on a minute, let me get my screen back here. There we go. I was looking at a polypterus or a Bashir or a biker, depending on how you want to pronounce that. Both ways are acceptable, apparently. But I can't really do it. I don't think a 40 is big enough for one of them. They can get up to a foot long. Even the small ones get up to, a foot. There's a really rare one out there that still gets 10 inches, but it's really rare, so probably hard to find and expensive. And they're jumpers. You got to have a tightly sealed lid, and I'm planning on having an open top tank. And so the Bashir is out of the question. And so I don't know what I'm going to put in there. I do want it open top, and I do want stuff growing up and out of it. I do want emergent plants in there and stuff like that. So I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but we are going to do something with that 40. I'm not just going to break it down and abandon it. We'll redo something, but it's not going to be any time in the particularly near future. All that stuff costs money, and I ain't got none. Koi, they can swim around under the ice. They're koi are cold water fish like goldfish. They can swim around in frozen ponds. Well, I know they probably don't usually get to 12 inches, that being the maximum size, but they can get to 12 inches, and even an 8 or 9 inch Bashir in a 40-gallon tank to me just seems like a lot of fish. I didn't really think the 40 was big enough for my puffer butterbean in there. I thought he was a little bit cooped up in a 40, and he was the size of a golf ball. So the idea of putting an 8 inch, or a 10 inch Bashir in a 40-gallon tank just doesn't really jive with me. So we'll do something. Like I said, maybe someday I'll get a Bashir, but my tanks aren't really set up for that kind of fish. I do like the open top, and that just makes it problematic when you're, looking for a wide variety of fish or jumpers, and you just can't have them if you got open top tanks. So let me unzoom you. I forgot about that. There you go. You can see the whole tank now. So this is the tank we're going to be getting in and doing some maintenance on. Maybe we should have done it before we fed it, but I don't want to feed it at 10 o'clock tonight. So just deal with the grungy grungy glass for a little bit. We'll start with the crisps because they do enjoy these. And the more I've been feeding them these, the more they seem to come out and get them. Until, of course, I say something about it, and then they all freak out and act like they've never seen me before. Because, of course, they do. All right, trying to handle my tablet with wet hands. Hey, gamer. Yeah, Corys are awesome little fish. I've never had a lot of luck with the Corys, though. I believe I said hello already, gamer. Yeah, I could definitely do a Bashir in the 125, but as you said, I would have to get a hood for it. Well, I have the hoods for it. I didn't throw them away. I just took them off. They're in the other room. I would have to put them back on and redo the lighting and all that kind of stuff. And so I don't think that's ever going to happen. I put a lot of work into getting this tank set up all open top with the, above the top lighting. My other 125 with the discus in it. Likewise, I built the whole frame and hood and everything so that I could have that external lighting like that. And so me putting hoods and everything back on it and going back to stock lighting is not particularly likely. I'm also considering an eel. I want to get something I've never had before, and I want to get something that's interesting. I mean, I could say I've never had a flagfish before. I have technically, but you get the idea. I don't mean like that, I want to get something interesting that I've never had before. One of those fish I've always looked at, but always thought, that won't really go in my tank because the other fish I have in there. This is, I'll grant you, I've got some limitations. It's only 40 gallons and it's going to have an open top, but it's a blank slate. Otherwise, there's nothing in it. I don't have any other tank mates to worry about. There's no plants at this point. It's just an empty tank. And so I can pretty much start from scratch and figure out how I want to scape out a 40-gallon, open top tank, which fish will be suitable for that. I don't know what these mushrooms are going to do to me tonight, but I'm taking a lot of them. I don't have a real accurate weight. They were still a little bit moist when I chopped them up, and even the tiniest bit of moisture adds a significant amount of weight. So technically I did 4.2 grams, but it was probably more like if I dried them fully, it would have been more like 3.8, 3.7, something like that. But I'm also building up quite a tolerance to the psilocybin. I think I did about 5 grams or something last night. I also tripped balls last night. It was awesome. So we'll see what happens tonight on 4 or 4.2 or whatever I drank or I'm drinking. I'm working my way through it now. TK. River turtle, that'd be awesome. Dade, I don't know if you're feeding your fish at the surface. Hey, Laura. I don't know if you're feeding your fish at the surface or if you're feeding them sinking food and then they later float to the surface. But if you're feeding them at the surface, that's the first thing I would stop doing. Feed them some kind of sinking food. You don't want them gulping air at the surface. Other than that, I'm not sure what to tell you about that. You've been sniffing people? Do you mean snuffing people? Hey, boy, how are you? I am doing well. I don't know what a siren is. I mean, other than the obvious, but I don't think you want me to put a klaxon in my tank or a vixen that is going to lure me to my death with her singing. So other than that, I don't know what kind of siren you're talking about. But if it's amphibious, then probably not, unless it's something that can fully live in the water all the time. I'm not going to do a partially land, I'm not going to set it up like that. So no mud skippers or, anything that needs land to crawl on. Speaking of heaters, I did check the heat in my other 40 that we'll move on to now. Checked this the other day, and I did not have a heater in this tank. And of course, it is wintertime now. We are in my basement, so it's not necessarily frigid down here, but it is not warm either. And when I checked this tank the other day, it was 69 degrees. So that's a little chilly for a angelfish to live in, full time. It's not going to hurt them to get down there for a day or two or during a water change or something, but they can't live in the 60s. They need to be at least in the mid 70s to be long-term health. So I did pop a heater in this tank. You know how heaters are. You adjust the little dial at the top and hope it's close. And I adjusted it to where I wanted it. I adjusted it to 70, looks like around 76 degrees, give or take. And when I took the temperature this evening, it's spot on 76.1. So it's right where I want it. And I got it dialed in on the first try. So that was pretty good. But this tank is now heated, although still unfiltered. And the angelfish is all the way at the other end of the tank. So he's going to have to make his way around the back of the tank where there's swimming room and come on around, and he'll get his food when he does. All right, I'm going to start getting some stuff ready for this water change. I'm going to get the power head unplugged. I have a power head that's really close to the surface, so as soon as we start draining the water, the power head's just, dry running. So we'll get that unplugged. I'll shut the filter down. I'm not going to unplug the filter. I just close the valve and stop the water from flowing. That's fine to do for a water change. It's not hurting anything. The filter shut off, power head shut off. The heaters in that tank shut off automatically when the... Actually, do I even have heaters in this tank? In the beginning, don't think I don't have heaters in this tank either. Yeah, there they are. I thought I had a heater. Got one heater in here anyway. It's a small one, and it's fairly close to the bottom, so I would have to drain a whole lot of water for it to even be exposed. And I'm pretty sure it's the one that shuts off automatically when it's exposed to the air. Most of my heaters do that. I think that one in my 29 is the only one that, will just turn on when it starts cooling down, and then the coils just start glowing red because there's no, water to cool them down. So I got to remember that with the 29. All my other tanks, the heaters shut off when they're exposed. All right, getting the hose in the tank. And I can start the water change while they're still in there grubbing around feeding a little bit. Remember, these 125s take a solid hour and 40 minutes to do a good water change on them. So we'll be finishing this up by the time the show's over tonight. All right, and I got my seahorse, and we're going to do a dab of some Hawaiian Puff hash oil. And I was telling Steve about this earlier. I've got that number 5 tip on here for if you're familiar with these, and it's got a ceramic tip that's like inside of a glass sleeve, and then there's a hole through the ceramic. And when I was hitting on mine the other day, it was getting really hard to hit through. I thought like the metal part on the inside was getting clogged up with reclaim. And when I looked, it was clear. And so I checked, and the inside of the tube of ceramic was all crusted up from, cooking off the old oil and burning it clean. And, it stops it from smoking. It burns it off in that sense, but it leaves behind stuff. And that was so clogged up with that grungy black, like carbonized stuff that I could barely draw through it anymore. So I took a little teeny tiny drill bit, and by hand, because I knew any kind of like drill motor vibration would have shattered the glass immediately. I used my hand and just twisted a drill bit to make a little tiny, like a pilot hole through it. And then I used a slightly larger one that was like the exact size of the original hole. And I opened it up again. And then I took the next size up, and that took a little work because I had to actually drill through the ceramic. Again, using my hands very gently. I took about 15 minutes, and I just twirled the drill bit until I finally drilled through the ceramic, and I opened the hole up again about half again larger than it comes stock. And boy, what a difference does it make. There's a lot of stuff going on, like the reason that it makes a difference. It's not just the amount of airflow. When you open up the inside of a tunnel, the amount of surface area increases exponentially as you make that opening larger in diameter. And so instead of having this tiny little hole with very little surface area to vaporize the stuff, anything that gets sucked up into that tube now just hits the inside of that hot ceramic and just vaporizes. I'm getting no pullback. I'm getting no like buildup behind the head like I used to. It's all just vaporizing as soon as it touches. And I just get massive hits off this thing now. So tiny little tweak made a huge improvement. So now I'm going to start my sessions mode. And probably in a minute or so, I'm going to be coughing my full head off here. Robert, how are you? All right, I got my wife and my friends and my mom all texting me during my live stream. I got 4 texts from 3 different people in a 10-second period. All right. Yeah, I guess I'm going to keep getting texts from the missus. Don't know why she's sending me texts while she knows I'm doing a live stream. Oh, well. If I could find my tablet, I know I set it down somewhere. There it is. I'll get caught up on some comments. We'll move on to the next tank. They're like eels, fully aquatic, but they're also amphibious. All right. No, I don't sell merch stickers. I do have some merch that I designed like a long time ago, and it's on my merch store if you want to look at it. I think I added a couple of things recently, but I don't have any merch stickers. I do have some channel logo stickers that ArcMate made for me. You know, if you want to send me a small donation to cover some postage or whatever, I can go ahead and mail you a couple of stickers like that. Hang on, let me get this camera set up better than that. You guys are just looking at a bunch of bushes. You know, there's not much else you can look at in this tank, but we'll give you a better attempt to lift you up a little bit. All right. Sticking with the vibrobites in this tank. Well, thank you. And you're looking at the Buenos Aires tetras in there right now. Thank you, TK. Hello, Robert. Yes, that is a nearite snail in the 40 we were just looking at. Michael, how are you? Goldfish are doing great. We will be looking at that tank for the latter portion of the live stream when we hunker down. I got a new base location sitting in front of the fish tank, or the goldfish tank. Amphibious? Never heard that word before. Interesting. Janice. Well, if it's possible to say that fish look happy, I'm going to say that the goldfish look really happy in their new home. So I guess that's a bonus. And we will do a little bit more work tonight, too. I'm going to get the gourami tank topped off, and I will wipe the glass down again in there because I just don't know what it is with that tank between the algae and the cyanobacteria. That tank's just a growing machine. None of my other tanks get stuff on the glass like that. And none of my other tanks get cyanobacteria like my gourami tank. I don't know what it is about that tank. It just amazes me. After all these years, it still baffles me. I did actually have to get in and wipe the fancy goldfish tank glass down this evening. I thought the water was cloudy at first, and then I looked closely and I realized there was just a thin film of growth on the glass already. And so I had to get in and wipe that down because this is the first time like the general public is going to see it. My members saw it on Wednesday's members live stream, but the general public is going to see it for the first time tonight. So I wanted it to look nice and pretty. So we got that glass all wiped down and ready to go. It is a 60, I think he called it a 60 picture. It's got a really, really big viewing pane on it. It's like a 55, except it's like 4 inches taller than a 55. When I was wiping it down tonight, I felt like it was a half an acre of glass I had to clean. When I came down about half an hour, about 7:30, we had 6 inches outside the back door, but it's been sleeting for several hours. So I don't know how much accumulation of snow we actually got before the sleet started packing it down. They were recommending that everybody get out and like clear away their driveway and clear everything off with snow before all the ice hits, because that'll make it so much worse. And I just laughed. I feel sorry for all them suckers that went out there and did that. Especially if we get sleet, it won't be too bad. But if we get freezing rain, then they are going to be sorry that they went out and cleared that shit off first. I would much rather have 6 or 8 inches of snow with a sheet of ice on top of the snow than to clear my driveway and then just have ice on my driveway. What the fuck am I going to do with ice? Snow, I can use my snow thrower. If it's got some ice on the top part of the snow, that's fine. It just gets broken up and thrown with the snow. But if it's frozen onto my driveway, all I can do is throw salt down and hope it's enough. So I didn't do anything today. We didn't even go outside. I opened the back door and threw some handfuls of bird seed out, towards the bird feeders. We didn't even go put it in the bird feeders. We just threw it on the ground, threw it in the snow near the bird feeders. That's as close to outside as I've come today. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to have to get up and, immediately get out there and start clearing the driveway and getting the cars dug out and all that and chipped out of the ice and whatnot. Good thing I have a flamethrower. That might come in handy. You can see me putting the flamethrower on the car to melt the ice and shattering all the windows. All right, let me see where I was here. Live bears and killifish together. I really don't know. I don't know enough about killifish. I know some killifish can tolerate brackish water, but other than that, I don't really know. So I appreciate your confidence in me, but I think you're asking the wrong person on that one. I also don't know about whether or not I'm going to add more fish to the fancy goldfish tank. The red-tailed shark is doing well as far as I know. Yes, it's a 60-gallon fish tank. Unless you put other stuff in it, and then it's a 60-gallon other stuff tank. Um, Again, I don't mind, like, as long as it's not the way they were talking about, which I think more southern Maryland is going to get with the freezing rain. I don't mind sleet. Sleet is just little tiny balls of ice, and even if it accumulates, it's just like walking through dry granular ice. It's not slippery. Freezing rain is just deadly. It's insanely dangerous. It's black ice magnified. Like, if you know what black ice is, that's freezing rain. It's when the ground is so cold that liquid water falls out of the sky as rain and then hits the ground and freezes the ice immediately, and it just bonds to whatever it sticks to. So power lines, the ice just keeps building and building and building until the power lines come down, branches come down, trees come down. And of course, driving or walking or moving around is almost impossible unless you have cleats on your shoes. That's what I don't want. I don't want the freezing rain that's keep creating a sheet of ice over everything. I don't mind the sleet, especially the sleet that's just falling into snow. It's just, I guess if I was shoveling it with a hand shovel, it would suck because it would be, heavy and wet. But I got a big ass industrial sized snow thrower, so I'll chew through that stuff like it's not even there. Like that don't matter to me. So I definitely don't want the ice frozen to my driveway, though. That's the important part. And about how are you this evening? Well, the one discus is no longer with us, Janice, but the other one is doing okay. It seems to get not bullied, but it gets pushed around a little bit. It does come out and is more outgoing than the bullied one. The bullied one still just hides in the corner. But the orange one that survived is doing okay. When I did a water change on that tank earlier this evening, I found a bunch of ribs and vertebrae, and I found a chunk of, I guess it was maybe the last bit of the spine that had some meat still on it. So I definitely found the remains of a fish in there. And the only fish I can't find is the other orange one. So I'm assuming that one's gone. Shamu, my son. I don't think I'm going to add another goldfish. If I do add anything else to that tank, I don't think it'll be another goldfish. It's technically an older tank, but it's new to me. It's from my neighbor. He was getting rid of his 60. He wanted to scale it down because it was taking up so much room in his living room. And so he was looking for a 40, and that worked out perfect. I swapped out my 40 for a 60 because I was looking for something bigger. Yeah, when we left the house this morning, it was 9 degrees. That's about negative 18 Celsius. No, 0 degrees Fahrenheit is about negative 18 degrees. So negative 12. The mushrooms are doing all right. I did harvest a few today. I actually have been doing the harvest them as I need them method. When 2 or 3 get big enough to pluck, I'm plucking them and letting the rest continue. I'm going to try that. And so far, it seems to be working. It doesn't really affect the growth of the others. I did notice that my bag, when I picked it up, was really lightweight. And a couple of the mushrooms near the bottom were only like half developed. And then they were sort of like drying out and just done. They were already drying where they stood. And I checked, and when I taped the bag back up last time, there were some gaps at the bottom where the air could move in and out. And the mushrooms that were right where that gap was were all sort of shriveled up and dried out. So I plucked those this morning and a couple of the other large ones. And I spent the day drying those out for my tea tonight. I'm not sure what OG are you. Oh, you're asking if it's algae on the glass? Yes. Yes, 60 is larger than 55. Well, in addition to stepping up my spray routine, I did obviously tape up those corners and get them taken care of. And I also poured in a little bit of my plant food just to put some, nutrients in there as well as moisture. All right, let's get in here real quick since we're standing here and get some of this wiped down. This stuff is just thick. It's hair algae. And it does not like to come off the glass. So we'll use a couple of different pads there. And I think when we're done this tank, we'll go do some vacuuming on the 125. My mushrooms are starting to kick in. My thoughts are starting to get a little cluttered together. I'm not even done my glass yet. See, even this isn't really taking it off the glass. It's just getting it presentable. Once we're done with the hose and the 125, we'll top this off. Or maybe if I got time and I'm bored, I'll just fill up the can a few times. I think this will take maybe 3 cans to fill it up. The can holds almost 2 gallons or a little under 2 gallons, I think. Beautiful. All right, let's come down here. And I guess the first thing I'll do is wipe the glass down so you guys can see what I'm doing after that. We'll stick with the melamine sponges on this one. This almost feels like it ought to be a job for a razor blade. Try not to swirl the stuff on the bottom up too bad. It'll probably settle back down again by the time I get over here with the vac, but all that grungy stuff on the bottom is what I want to get vacked out of there. We're not going to do a deep vacuuming into the substrate, but we are going to at least do a superficial cleaning of it. See, this tank even gets grunge and stuff growing on the glass where all the plants are. I think some of the light comes down from the top, but I think it also gets enough light from the outside, from the pond and whatnot, that we still get grunge growing all down in this area. 125 is not really like that. The other 125 with the discus is that end that's got the tiger lotus lily pads all over the surface. I barely have to touch the glass on that end. Doesn't get enough light for anything to really grow. All right, for now, we're going to say that's good enough. All right, let's get this vac in here. A couple spots where the stuff just sort of accumulates. I like it that way. Although the pleco poop is a lot like goldfish poop, it can be so long and solid that it's too heavy to go up in the vac. You got to like crunch it down into the sand a bunch of times and break it up so it goes up through the water flow. All right, let's get the hose all the way to this other end. Surprised at how little stuff I'm actually collecting out of here. I thought we were going to have big clouds of grunge. If I can get it all the way into this corner, we should probably get some grunge out of that. I don't know if you can see that or not. Really expected to get a lot more out of here than this. Just this gap in the back usually has a ton of stuff in it, and it didn't really tonight. All right, let's get this corner back here, and then we can get back to feeding. Now, this corner definitely has a bunch of grunge in it because this is underneath of the power head, and it just creates like a dead zone under the power head, and everything just settles there without getting caught up in it. And of course, I got all these plants and a big piece of wood right down here in the corner. Now I got the tripod under. Hang on, I got the. There we go. Put the tripod over top of the hose. If you can see how much crud is coming through this hose, it's a ton of it. There's so much of it still in the plastic tube that hasn't come out. It's getting there though. A great big nearite snail back here. I thought it was a rock. Well, I feel like I got enough out of that corner that was justified the whole tank water change. It was a lot. It's interesting. The bits of red food, I've told you before, when I use the color enhancing flakes, the red pellets or the red flakes always float. Now that some of them have actually absorbed enough water to sink, like they don't pick up with the crud. Like you wouldn't think that fish food wouldn't come up in a gravel vac, but the red flakes do not come up with the gravel vac. That's interesting. All right, I think we can call that good on the gravel vac, and we'll just let the water continue to drain for a little while. We will move on to, I'm going to skip the 29 as far as feeding it because there's not much to look at in there in the first place. And secondly, the lights are half burned out. And so, I don't know, it doesn't look that bad on camera. I know I'm looking at my monitor. But it's really weird looking. It needs work. I got to get the light fixed, and we got to get the, just do another water change. I don't think I got all that coffee out of there. And while the creamer and stuff may not be still swirling around in the water, making it creamy looking, it did settle on everything, apparently. I don't know. That tank just looks off now. So we're going to do some more work on that at some point, but not tonight. Tonight, we're just going to work on the 125. Like I said, that's going to take the rest of the night anyway. It's already almost 9 o'clock, and we've still got 15 minutes left of draining. All right, I'm going to drink some more of my mushrooms. And let me get caught up on some comments and get some much needed nicotine in my body. All right, let me scroll back. Oh, I got so many comments to get caught up on here. No, I didn't put plant food in the spray bottle. I just used water in the spray bottle, but I did use my watering can, and I put a little bit, maybe, I don't know, an ounce or two of water in the bottom of the mushroom bag so that it would get absorbed up in it. All right, let me just keep reading here. Hey, Red Eddie. All right, just getting caught up. Yeah, I've never heard of killifish being aggressive either. Yeah, they'll eat the shit out of anything they can get, but that's not the same as being aggressive. Yeah, Steve got it right. That is a male betta fish in the tank you're looking at. The only things that have ever been successful for me with green water is either just wait it out and it will go away on its own in time. That doesn't usually happen, but it can. Usually what I do when I get an outbreak of green water is get a little clarifier with a UV light on it and just run it in the tank for a few days. That should clear it up. Mel. Seven angels, nice. Never have too many angelfish. They're like guppies. You can never have too many guppies. All right, I am caught up on comments. So let us move on to not the final tank because we are now reconfiguring our hangout time and we're going to be sitting in front of the fancy goldfish tank for the end of the show. So I'll get that fed last. I'm still looking to where I used to keep my monitor and it's not there. All right, you got a brand new spanking clean discus tank to look at. We just did about a 75% water change on it. I took the water down to about 6 inches deep. Got the glass all wiped down inside and out. So, of course, tomorrow I'm going to have a tank full of dead fish because I did spray Windex on the glass, and it usually takes about a day for it to soak through and get to the fish. But I'll worry about that tomorrow. Ah, sorry, I bumped the tank and it scared the shit out of everybody. Remember, sounds travel much differently through water and affect fish very differently than just the way we hear sound traveling through air and affecting our ears. They feel the sound in their whole body. It's a physical thing to them. So even tapping on the glass is quite distressing to fish. That's why you often see the signs that say, please do not tap on the glass. It's not to keep from annoying the fish store owner. That's to keep from stressing the fish out. All right, I feel like I need another dab. Actually, you know what I need to do? I need to light a joint. Fucking joints don't burn. I got to keep relighting them, and they frustrate me more than anything. But I just feel like a joint's the right thing to smoke right now. My mushrooms are definitely washing over me. And I'm still working on them. I haven't even finished my tea yet. It's gonna be another good one tonight. I was tripping so hard last night. At one point, I was using my joint to conduct the music. They were doing a pretty good job, too. They were following my direction exactly. Shirley. Oh, look at all them stop signs. Thank you. Yeah, the only thing I've ever had work for me with the green algae again is either just waiting it out, and sometimes like it just sorts itself out the same way diatoms will eventually sort themselves out. Usually doesn't happen with the green algae though. The green algae, just put a clarifier in there, put a little UV light in there. A few days later, it'll be clear as a bell. You take it out, and you're good to go. Let's see. Well, I do my best not to thump it or bang it, but obviously I like keep stuff on top of the tanks, and I do my best to gently set things down, even on the shelves underneath of the tank. Like you don't have to bump the tank itself. If you thump the fish food down on the tank, on the tank stand, that's gonna you may as well just bang the glass. So I try to do all that stuff really gently. But occasionally I bump it or I misjudge and, I let go too soon and it drops. Occasionally, I got those doors that fold up to give me access. They've slipped out of my hands before and slammed down. That freaks everybody the fuck out in the whole room when one of those doors slams down. Oh, nice, Steve. That's awesome. Well, this would be an interesting one to compare with Steve because you know how I always, every time I talk about the weather, I always talk about how I live in a place that, is largely sheltered, but it's also really hard to predict exactly where the weather's going to be. And I kind of live right on that rain snow line. In this case, that's to my benefit. I'm getting much, much more snow with the tail end of sleet. Anybody like down towards Steve's area, and he only lives as the crow flies about 30 miles south of me, but he was supposed to get a lot more of the actual freezing rain and ice accumulation than I have. So we'll see what he winds up with by the time it's all said and done versus what I end up with. I got a lot more driveway and parking pad and sidewalk and stuff to deal with than he does though. Can't believe this joint's still lit. I guess if I just like focus on it and keep puffing constantly, it stays lit. It even seems like the paper's burning off the outside. I'm running low on these raw papers, so when I order again, I'm going to order those alpacas. See if they don't burn better. It's only done it on this last batch of weed. So I don't know if I dried it out too much and it's just like too dry and granular. I know when I put it in my grinder, it doesn't come out in like that broken up, chunky, granular kind of way. It comes out like sand. I mean, it just comes out like a powder, and that's what I'm packing it with. And so when it burns, if I take a small puff, it just burns the little bit of weed and keeps that going, but it just burns down inside the paper. And within a few minutes, I've got like a ½ inch of paper sleeve around where the coal's trying to burn, and it just goes out all the time. It's weird the way these joints have been burning. Never had this problem before. First time I did it, I just gave up. I thought it was the mushrooms. I was like, I'm tripping too hard to even fucking smoke a joint properly. Like I don't know how I can't smoke a joint, but apparently I can't. So I just switched to something else. And it wasn't until the next day that I was having the same problem. I was like, aha, it wasn't the mushrooms. It wasn't my imagination. These joints don't burn right. Unfortunately, I don't have any more weed on the horizon. I did have a super silver haze that was doing really well. And every now and again, I'll have a plant that just for no apparent reason, just like somebody turned off the switch, it just dies. And that's what this one started doing the other day. I looked at it and the leaves were all starting to wilt. And I checked and it had plenty of moisture. It wasn't overwatered or anything, but it shouldn't have been wilting. And subsequently, over the next few days, every time I looked at it, it was just wiltier and wiltier. And now, like, again, I recognize this. I've seen it before. It's just like sudden death of the plant. It just dies. And so I don't even have anything that's big enough at this point to put into the flowering section. So I got to wait a couple more weeks before I can even start flowering my next plant. So I got a little bit of weed left, and I got like 2 solid months before I'm going to have more weed. Might have to end up going to the goddamn weed store after all. I hope not. I'll smoke fucking reclaim before I do that. Oh, nice, Steve. We didn't, it was still sleeting when I came downstairs. And where I measured was like on the back porch. I leaned out as far as I could to get away from like the overhang. But, you know, I was still on my back porch, just right by the overhang. My wife even pointed out that like out in the yard, it's much deeper. I was like, well, do you want to walk out there with the tape measure? She's like, no. I said, all right, well, we got the measurement from the back door. So we probably got more than the 6 inches when I measured it. And I did have to like jam and break through the crust to get the tape measure down through it. Once it was through the crust, it went through pretty easy. But we're definitely going to have a crust of ice on the surface tomorrow. Again, I don't care about that. My snow thrower will go through that like it's not even there. The thing that's going to bum me out most about this, I make my own. It doesn't really come out like wax. It comes out more like a really, really, really thick, gooey oil. But I do make my own. I'll buy it if I have to, but I usually make my own. I haven't been to the weed store in like 2 or 3 years. I don't intend to start now. All right, just making sure I'm not missing any comments. Gonna light my joint again. I'm getting pretty close to reversing the water flow. Holy crap, it's only 5 after 9. I swear to God, mushrooms distort time so hard. Unlike weed, I'm used to like the time distortion with weed. I don't really get it as much as I used to, but these mushrooms fuck me up. I'll either be into something and I'll look up and it's been an hour and I thought it was like 5 minutes, or, you know, I'm doing the live stream where I got 14 things going on. You think the time would go fast. It feels like it is. And then I look up and it's still only 9 o'clock. So we got scads of time. I was thinking we were going to need to get the water switched around like lickety split to get done by 10. Not that I have to be out here by 10, I guess. I don't know if you can tell or not, but my 2 discus in that back corner up here are preparing a spawning site. I don't know if they're actually actively laying eggs at the moment, or if they are just preparing and cleaning the spot, but they're definitely going to be breeding. They're cleaning off they're definitely cleaning it, and they are cleaning the heater again. So I will check tomorrow, and if there are eggs on that heater, I may just pull that out. It's not plugged in, so I can just literally take it out of the tank with no change to the tank at all. And I'm squeezing. Let's see if he talks. I can throw that into my shrimp tank in the other room and see if the eggs survive longer than they have so far. But I don't think they're going to be laying any eggs tonight. They're still cleaning the spot. So probably tomorrow they'll be in there actually spawning. All right, we got the power head at the bottom is now half exposed, and the silver dollars are starting to show signs of distress. So that's usually my signal that I've drained enough water to get that puppy flipped around. And we'll start down the home stretch of filling her back up. And we're done. In fact, I think I'm going to get in and clean the glass a little more. Since I've got access to it without the water sloshing all around. Looks different from the top when you look down. If you see this sort of cavity area right here, this is where all the crud always collects, and I can just get the vac right in there. I built it like that. The power head blows the water across the back, and then it's got this little rock shelf that creates a little eddy, and all the debris and everything just sort of settles onto the bottom right there. And of course, we got these little traps in the corner. And then down here, we've got all that woodwork and everything in there. That obviously catches a ton of the stuff. Look at the size of that neorites now. You'd think it was a mystery snail based on how big it is. That's a neorite. I never put any mystery snails in this tank. Yeah, I told you the silver dollars get distressed when the water level starts getting low. So I'm going to take the opportunity while it's low and wipe that down again. Yeah, it's so much easier when it's not underwater. I could probably wipe down the part that is underwater a little better too, but I'm not going to worry about it. Actually, I will through here because this is where the action always happens when we're watching the feeding. Yeah, I left a ton of crud on that glass down there. This end actually doesn't look too bad, probably because of all the plants reducing the light. All right. I'll try to get this as little glare as possible, although it's kind of difficult with the I got a dimmer switch on this. It didn't want to shut off because I haven't used it in so long. It was like stuck where it was. All right, so that is my new tank. And once the 125 is filled, we'll be sitting down in front of this tank, so you'll get more time to enjoy it if you want. But if anybody saw me scape it originally, I have changed it ever so slightly. We added the sponge filters to the intakes, not for a pre-filter so much as to hide the plumbing a little bit. Plus, it gives me more biological filtration. I'm trying to avoid putting a sponge filter in here. I'm probably still going to add an air stone down here in the left corner, but I don't know if I want to put an actual sponge filter on it just yet. I might, and then just hide the sponge filter behind a big rock or something so you can't really see it. So we're not completely done, but we're basically done. So I moved this central plant a little further this way because it is going to grow in this direction. But I also needed some space because I added that piece of woodwork in there that you can see. That's actually one of the very first pieces of woodwork I ever purchased in the fish keeping hobby. Many years ago, probably 15 years now, that piece of wood has been underwater. And that's the one I was using in my experiment to see if a piece of wood that had been soaking in water for 15 years would still leach tannins into the water. And of course it did. And so I'm done with that experiment, and now I needed some wood for this tank, and so I just grabbed that and threw that in here. It wasn't anything, particularly visual or special about it. It's just a small chunk of wood that's not going to interfere with the goldfish swimming around. They're not going to get stuck in it, or there's no sharp points on it or anything. It's perfect for a tank like this. So again, as far as fish can look happy, they certainly seem happy. I come in here. This is actually one of the few tanks I do look at when I'm tripping. Again, when I come in here, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of light and movement and color everywhere. It's a little sensory overload. But I can just take a few minutes and just stand here and just watch the goldfish because they just flow through the water. They look so amazing, especially on mushrooms. All right, let me see where we were again. Well, for the first, I don't know, 20 years I grew it, it wasn't legal. I didn't ask anybody's permission. I just did it because I did it. Well, you only have to poop in it if you're doing a soiled tank. you wanted to see it. Sorry about that. They actually do look smaller now that you say it. I hadn't even thought about it like that. All right, we still got about half the tank left to fill, so I'll let you guys just keep enjoying the tank. Oh, you know what? We never did feed this tank, so let's feed it while we're standing here. I don't know, it feels like it's getting so late. It's 9:15. I'll be able to relax a little more once I've got the tank filled and the hose turned off and put away and don't have to worry about it. I am going to run into the bathroom real quick for a minute, so give me a second. I'll mute you, and I'll be right back. All right, I remembered to come back in the room, but I forgot to unmute you. I'm sorry about the glare. I will angle the camera differently, but I want to turn this light back on just so I can keep an eye on the water flowing. It's just hard to see it with the light turned out, and I know how I am, especially now, out of sight, out of mind. And I don't want to hear the merry tinkle of water splashing on the floor. So you'll just have to cope with those lights. I'll turn that out once we sit down in front of the tank for a few minutes. In the meantime, I think I'm going to do another dab. I did a pretty good effort on that joint. I made it about halfway through before I've given up on it. I'll save it for later, like I do all my half joints when I give up on them. Got a pile of them in here now. With my timing experiment last night, with timing, spacing out my dosages rather than just gulping it all down at once. First of all, I took a lot, so I was spreading it out, and I could kind of gauge where I was before I was drinking more. But I also timed it so that my last good swig was kicking in right as I was hitting my peak from the main bulk of it, and it just like kicked my peak into supercharge. It was just awesome. I had such a good time last night. It's been a long time since I've done a good high dose of mushrooms. I was telling my wife, if I had been outside, I would have seen crazy visuals if it was like sunshine and daylight and all that. But I sit down, I deliberately put myself in, and I got the lights really dimmed. I got a little softly changing colored light. I got my music on. I don't want a ton of stimulation. And there's a big difference between day tripping and night tripping. And I like both. But day tripping is where you get the visuals. It's where you see the rainbows and the fucking crazy trails and all that. I was seeing trails, but you're only going to see so much trails if there's very little light to give you the trails from. You can barely see the arm moving through the air. You just don't get it's just like a fish tank. If you put cheap, lights on them that don't give you a nice full spectrum, then you're just not really going to see all the colors and everything that are there, because you can't. The color is the property of the light, not of the animal or the plant or whatever. And so you need that full spectrum, good quality light to really get good visuals. And so I would have been seeing some awesome shit if I was outside during the day last night. And that's hard to pull off, going outside during the day in the middle of the night. All right, where did I set you guys down again? Peekaboo. All right. One thing I'm happy about is I got my generator all gassed up and test started it and got that all running. I got the snow thrower all ready by the back door. Like, we're ready for it. But it doesn't seem like, unless we get that freezing rain, it doesn't seem like we're going to have to worry about a power outage. And that's what I always worry. Like, the roads will be fine. And within 24 hours, Maryland's really good with our roads. And, I have to deal with the driveway or whatever. But, whatever. You have to do that when it snows in the winter. But I'm not going to be like stuck at home. I'm not going to be able to not get out and stuff like that. So I don't worry about that. The power going out, all over Maryland because of an ice storm, it might take a week before they get around to my little fucking street. So that is always what I'm stressing about. And it just doesn't seem like that's going to be a big concern. All right, I lost my place again. I'll find it. There it was. Yeah, growing weed in a rented house is definitely hit or miss. It depends on the relationship you have with the landlord and all sorts of stuff. I've known people that grew weed in rented houses before. Well, of course they swim slow. They're swimming around with fucking parachutes hanging off of them, and they're the shape of a fucking cantaloupe. Yes and no, Dade. I'm not personally going to add more plants to it, but time and Mother Nature will definitely add more Anubias to the tank. That tank is going to be a lot more Anubias in there eventually, but it's only because it's going to just grow in and fill the tank. Yeah, I'm actually going to, once I sit down, I'm actually going to talk about the idea of tripping really solid on camera and whatnot, because I'm tripping pretty damn good right now. Not like I was last night, but I'm three-quarters of the way where I was last night. And so we'll talk about that. I don't want to get distracted talking about the mushrooms. Plus, I know a lot of you aren't interested in the mushrooms. So when I sit down in front of the camera, half you leave anyway. So those are the ones I don't think will be interested in hearing me talk about my mushroom trip. So I'll save that for when I sit down. In the meantime, I'm going to find my dab and I'm going to do one. I've been testing the timeout on my seahorse, and I think it's an hour, but when I tested it before at 59 minutes, it was off, but I've gotten 53 minutes out of it. So I think when I did it, like if you think of something timing out at an hour, you have to have like a real actual secondhand stopwatch kind of timer. Just because I went from the same minute to the same minute. Hang on, I'm ready. Like if I checked it uh, I was picking a time and saying, okay, I'll press it, make sure it's on, and then I'll set it down and I'll wait. So if I did that at say 9 o'clock, it might have been 9 o'clock and 55 seconds or something when I checked it. But then when I checked it again at 10 o'clock, it had just turned 10 or whatever, and or vice versa. I'm saying that backwards, but you get the idea. So if it goes a minute, I mean, if it goes for an hour and a second, it wouldn't be on when I checked it again, even though the minute hand still said it was the same hour. I guess you guys are following what I'm trying to stumble through here. So I'm going to try it at the 59-minute mark and see if it's still on at 59 minutes, just out of curiosity. The fact that it's still on after 53 minutes, like it stays on for a fucking while after you set it down. It's got a really long standby. And if it does go off, all I got to do is press the button a few times and it comes right back on. So it's not a big deal. It's more a curiosity than anything. I just want to see what the timeout on it actually is. I looked it up, and all I could find was that the different Luca devices all have different idle timeouts on them, but there's no listing for the timeout. So it's interesting that Steve has the same device I have, but his time's out, according to him, after 5 minutes, and I get almost an hour out of mine. So, and it's the same model; it's the exact same device. So I guess maybe every individual unit has its own preset timeout or something. I don't know. It just seems a little weird that we both have the same unit, and his time's out after 5 minutes, and I get almost an hour. Imagine a 200 plus gallon full of these guys. Well, I mean, I've seen goldfish ponds before that have hundreds of goldfish in them. So I've definitely seen huge groupings of goldfish. It's awesome. I was thinking about that last night as I was standing in here looking at my tanks. When I think about them as my tanks, or I just go into the fish room, I don't know. It's just like, it's like my gardens or whatever. It's just my yard. I see it every day. Like, I don't think about it the same way. If I was at somebody else's house and saw that, I'd be like, oh my God, and I'd be looking at everything. And so last night when I was in here and I was looking at my discus tank for a few minutes, I was looking for that second orange discus before I turned the lights out. I just kept thinking, like, man, if I saw this tank like at someone else's house, or if I went in a doctor's office or something and they had this on display, I'd be mesmerized. I would watch this tank all fucking afternoon. And yet, because it's my tank, I'm just like, yeah, it's my discus tank. And I just come in and throw some food at them and go back outside. I check to see if anybody's floating. And as long as they're not, I'm good. So the human brain is a weird thing, how you acclimatize to certain things. Things that should be spectacular become mundane. Now, there's an old saying, familiarity breeds contempt. All right, well, that time I actually tried to set up my session cycle and I hit it too many times and I turned it off. All right, we're doing another session here. We're in the warm-up mode. I'll get caught up on comments in a minute. I'm still just watching this fish tank fill. I could go get my glasses, then Phil could watch the fish tank fill. This thing, it's like a beast now. I mean, it always kind of did, but you had to be a little more careful with it. Now you can just fucking crush it. Huge improvement. All right, here we go, everybody. I'm going to try to read this shit. I think I'm to the point where the letters, oh yeah, the letters are all moving around and shit. And I'm going to say from this point going forward, stop signs would be incredibly helpful. Oh, I scrolled up looking for where I'd left off, and I didn't even have to move it. I'd left off where it was sitting at the bottom. There was no new comments. Yeah, that's what you said, Steve. You checked many times, and it's consistently 5 minutes. It shuts off. I just find that really strange. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate those stop signs. Well, I used to get pissed at my mom when she would come in and clean my room, or fucking when I bought the house that I grew up in from my mom and dad when they moved out, and uncle died and left them his house. So they upgraded and I bought their house. And for the longest time after that, I would come home from work and like the house would be all fucking cleaned and whatnot. It drove me fucking insane. You know, I'm an adult living in my own home that I purchased. Like, I know this used to be your house, and I know you lived here for fucking 40 years or some shit. But like, I made her give me her key. Like, it was a big thing. Like, she cried and was all upset, and like my dad stood by my side. He's like, just give him your fucking key. No, he's an adult. That is his house. You do not just go over there and like go through his shit and clean it. Like, that's insane. Give him your key now. And so the agreement was I gave my dad the key, and so that they still had the emergency key to get in the house, if they needed to. But yeah, I'd be mad if you came over and cleaned my tank too if I was your little bed of fish. God, this tank is filling up slowly. I feel like I'm standing here for like an hour waiting for this thing to fill. I got the temperature close though. It says 75, and it said it's 76, so I only missed it by a degree. All right, I know what I need will settle me down. I'm going to get some nicotine. In fact, I'm going to go get my strong stuff. Every brand I'm looking for, I'm trying to find, like, I can't find the brand I like, so I'm experimenting with different brands. And it seems like a lot of them sell two strengths. It's one thing or they double it. Like, you can get 24 or 48. This particular brand, I got a 25 and a 50. 25 is not strong enough, but a 50 is too much. They're not the kind of flavors I can mix together to make a decent blend of the two or anything. And so I puff on the 25 sort of regularly, but when I feel a need for a bump, I'll hit on the 50. It burns my throat a little bit, but boy, does it crank some nicotine into me quickly. If the 125 finishes filling before the next ice age gets here, I will take the hose and we'll top off the gourami tank as well. We still have that much to go. Like I said, it just feels like it's taking an eternity for it to fill up. Here, I'll let you guys look at the gourami tank for a few minutes instead of staring at that goldfish tank, because we're going to be looking at that when I sit down anyway. I could turn the camera around. You guys could watch me pace the floor like a caged tiger. Thank you, Art. Speaking to Cubensis, just the golden teacher. Shirley, welcome back. I'm actually thinking I ought to probably finish. Well, yeah, I'll go ahead and finish my tea now. That last little bit of it will be kicking in about the time I'm heading out of here. I definitely need to take a break, though, and get my tolerance back down. Although I've been debating with myself about whether I need to bring my tolerance back down. Obviously I got access to mushrooms to the point where I'm building a tolerance to the psilocybin. But on the other hand, I got plenty of fucking mushrooms. Just eat more. Like, it's not like the same as being addicted to it, where like I'm, becoming addicted. Like being addicted to something and building a tolerance are not the same thing. Some things like alcohol, you do both. But with the psilocybin or LSD or anything like that, you build a tolerance to it very quickly. You very quickly need to take more to get the same effect. Doesn't mean it's addictive or gives me any negative health impacts or anything. Like I get nothing but positive from the mushrooms. I was thinking about it today. The only thing I could think of that might be a negative is the fact that because it's part of my life, I tend to talk about things that interest me. And I know there's a lot of people out there that don't like me here, to talk about the mushrooms and the drugs and all that. And so it may drive some people away from my YouTube channel, but I don't really see that as like a personal, it's not harming my motivation. It helps my motivation. It makes me think more clearly. And so I don't know whether I want to take a break from them or just eat more. I'll take a break when I run out. I won't be sad when I run out and have to go a month before I get a new batch or something, but whatever. I definitely have stopped dabbling my toes. I've crossed the threshold into like bona fide, legit tripping now. And God damn, is it fun. I forgot how much I love like really tripping. I was trying to figure out what you meant. It took me a second to figure out what Ba Tetras were. And then I was wondering about like the butthead. Like, is there a butthead species of them? I was going to say, I think I just got the regular ones. No, it depends on what you mean. They're tetras, so they always chase and dart, and they're always running around after each other. They do that constantly. It's almost like they're constantly trying to establish a pecking order, but I don't see any damage. Like there's no real nipped fins or anything like that. I suppose they could. But yeah, mine are always chasing each other around and whatnot like that. That's just how they are. I never thought that was problematic. All right, everybody, we're getting close. We got about an inch and a half of water to go. So another hour or so, I guess. All right, I definitely don't need any more coffee, so we can put this away. Still piping hot. Oh, that's right. I remember before I came down, I microwaved it for the amount of time that I would microwave it if I'd taken it out of the refrigerator. But I was only supposed to be heating it back up because it was like lukewarm. And so I made it way too hot to drink before the live stream. And it's now just that right drinking temperature, but it's way too late to drink a big ass cup of coffee. So I'm not. Well, I started with 7, and I've got, I don't know, 11 or 12 of them in there now. I don't know if they'll breed in your tank the way they do in mine, but my Diamond Tetras and my Buenos Aires both breed in that tank fairly frequently. It's not like I would be, collecting them up for sale. But I've explained this before. They just sort of, enough of them survive to adulthood that as a few age out and die off, a few more just appear in the tank. And so I've never had to really replace the population. But both the Diamonds and the Buenos Aires, I have far more of them now than I did when I originally purchased them, probably 7 or 8 years ago. So that tank is just like perpetually self-refilling unless I want to add, other fish like the shark or the discus or something like that as, highlight fish. But the schooling fish are self-replenishing. I think I'm going to throw some water in the 40 while we're down here, and we've got time to do it. I think my clock is stuck. All right, everybody, we are coming down the home stretch. We have one edge of the tank has the water over it. And so all we got to do is bring the hose over here. I'm going to bring it right into the gourami tank. We'll fill this one first. I can fill the, I can top off the 40 with the watering can while we're letting this one, letting the gourami tank fill up. Oh, we're so close. Let me turn the filter back on. Go back here and plug the power head back in. Glad I'm skinny now. Couldn't have done that 5 years ago. All right, power head's working, filter's flowing. And we are so close. The water is almost there. I knew I had 3 bracts on this, or flowers, whatever you want to say. But there's 4 of them here. I don't know if that's this one almost, yeah, this has got to be new. That's still in the process of opening. I'll show it to you if I remember when we bring the camera back over here, but we're going to call this full. Tired of waiting. I could put another inch in there. It's just up to the bottom edge of the moss. And so I like to make it so that the moss gets damp. That way it sort of self-waters. But I'm tired of fucking waiting for that tank to fill up. It took 4.5 hours. All right, now I don't think I'm going to bother with filling up the watering can either. We'll just top this off. This won't take too long because it's only 55. All right, let me start stacking stuff up here and getting my sitting down spot ready. I definitely need to get a stand or something to put my base station and everything on. This stacked buckets functions, but it sucks. And I still need to figure out something to do with my shrimp tank. I've just got that sitting over there on my weight bench. Now, granted, I haven't gotten on my weight, my gym equipment in quite a while, but if I want to, or the missus wants to, we can't. because I have a 5-gallon tank sitting on it. So I got to find a place for that. Yeah, I'm getting pretty close to where I was last night. When I put the hose away, when I walk into the other room and come back, I'll let you know how we're doing, because that'll be the real test. Gotta be careful of my fish towel now. All right, one last tank left to get topped off, and then we are done. Doesn't that look pretty now? I was thinking about moving around in different kinds of video games. You got two different kinds of movement when you're traversing I don't know, walking through a warehouse or something. You got the kind where your character moves around. Like if you turn left, your character turns left and starts moving left. And then you got the kind where if you turn left, the character still points towards the top of the screen, but the whole map rotates around him. That's where I was last night when I was walking around in the kitchen and whatnot. Like the house was rotating around me and I was always facing the same direction and standing still. It was awesome. I guess technically the whole world was doing that, not just the kitchen. I mean, if you think about it, it would have to be the whole world, wouldn't it? It was my house just sliding around on its foundation. That doesn't make any sense. All right, we are almost done. I'm going to go shut the water off, and then I'm going to sit down. I don't even know what the camera's pointing at this point anymore. All right, hang on. I'll be right back to whatever you're looking at. I think you're kind of looking at the discus tank. All right, we are done with all of our work. It took the whole damn live stream. I knew it would. Just doing a water change from start to finish on one of the 125s takes the better part of the live stream. If I'm going to do additional stuff afterwards, it definitely takes up the time. All right, put the hose away. Make sure the valve is open, so if anybody turns the sink on, it doesn't start squirting out of the hose. Out in the light. All right, everybody, here I come, ready to sit my ass down and relax a little bit. You know, I had to sit down for like 8 seconds and stand back up and start walking around and doing something. Caught myself cleaning the basement and putting shit away at like midnight last night. I just saw something that got on my nerves, and so I decided I was going to move it. And of course, I did the tripping thing, which was I picked it up from one spot and I just put it down in another spot a few feet away. Didn't accomplish much, but I felt good about it. I laughed at myself for doing it too. See, that's the thing, and I'll talk about it once I sit down. I thought about tripping a lot last night. All right, now we finally. All right, let's get the camera situated. You like my shirt? Been wearing this shirt. Well, I actually haven't been wearing it for a lot of years. When I cleaned out the dresser to get rid of it, this shirt was in there. So I haven't worn it in probably 10 years, but it is from when I used to work for All States Moving and Storage back in like 97. So the shirt's almost 30 years old. I thought it'd be fun to wear it tonight. All right. I'm actually like warm and sweaty from walking around, and the mushrooms probably. All right, that's my Tetra question. Hey, Craig, how are you this evening? 7 minutes is a long fucking time. All right, Dave, you have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. I do not know who made this tank. It was given to me by my neighbor. He wanted to downsize and he was looking for a 40, so it worked out perfect for both of us. But I know it's a really nice tank, and it was sold as a here, let me bring you guys a little closer. It was sold as a 60 picture window or like a 60 picture tank or something. So I don't know who made it or whatever. He got it at PetSmart. I think he got it at PetSmart. Now that I'm thinking about it, I thought it was a Black Friday deal that he got it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I know it's a really nice tank. I was cleaning the glass down tonight and it felt like it was a half an acre of fucking glass to clean. So it's definitely a big ass viewing pain. I do like that about it. Yeah, it looks sharp. I like it. It looks nice. I actually never really noticed it. I kind of knew it's really thick glass, and so I just assumed that the glass was doing something with the light or something. It never really occurred to me that it's actually just black silicone. That makes a lot more sense now that you're saying it. So now I know something new. Yay. I'm actually getting cotton mouth tonight, and I don't often get cotton mouth. It's actually the opposite. Normally, when I do the mushrooms, it makes my nose water, my eyes water, like my nose runs for a solid hour, and then I get through all that, and it goes away, and I'm fine. But tonight, I got no runny nose or anything. I'm just getting cotton mouth. So Zini has been asking me for a long time to do like a really solid tripping live stream where I'm just like tripping balls. And I was thinking about it last night because last night would have been a good, live stream. But I thought about it but it wouldn't, because for you to see me like tripping balls, I would have to let you see me doing that. If we weren't on camera right now and I was just listening to music, I'd have my eyes closed. I'd be swaying around, I'd be seeing fucking colors and everything. I'm tripping pretty solid, but I'm a seasoned, experienced psychedelics user. And so when I'm doing a live stream, I'm not going to act like that because I don't want to be seen acting like that. I was thinking about it last night when I was tripping. I was tripping so hard. And then I heard my wife get up and get ready for bed. And I got upstairs and I walked upstairs. And of course, she laughed at me because I was tripping really hard. And we were, just had a conversation. It was about silly stuff and whatnot. And, but then I came right back downstairs and was immediately back in my little zone and just balls out tripping again. And so here we are. I'm doing a live stream, tripping pretty solid. If I was tripping to the point where I couldn't control the like staring at shit and saying weird stuff, like I've never in my life been to that point. Like I was telling Zini at one point, I used to do acid in high school and get away with not anybody noticing I was on acid in high school. So it's the difference between me acting, just letting loose and just doing what I feel like doing, and like just letting the mushrooms take me, or just tripping really solid while I'm doing the live stream, because here we are. I drank over 1/8 of mushrooms, like 4.5 grams of mushrooms tonight, and they haven't all kicked in yet, but it's pretty close. And again, I'm definitely pretty solidly tripping. Dude, your 240 looks long and skinny. Now, there's a few things that happen where I know, like I definitely have crossed the threshold. And last night, I got all the bases. One was when I walked around, like the world just seems like it's moving around me. I was seeing things bend and colors changing and all that kind of stuff. But a good analogy I came up with while I was thinking about it was, and this isn't a great analogy because I'm going to use the term funhouse, and we all know funhouses really suck. And if you watch movies, nothing good ever happens in a funhouse. But in theory, you know, the idea that a funhouse is this exciting place you go and like the world's all distorted and bendy mirrors and flashing lights, and you know, that environment is challenging your brain. Think of like an optical illusion. Like if you were at a funhouse and your friend took 2 or 3 steps into this room and it suddenly looked like they were way at the end of a hallway in, you know, one of those optical illusion rooms. What makes that cool is that your brain's trying, like, how the fuck, that doesn't make sense. He was right here, now he's all the way out there. Like, that isn't how the world works. And so it causes this confusion in your brain, and that's what makes you laugh and smile. And when you first start doing, you know, psychedelics, it's definitely like that because the world suddenly becomes a funhouse. Everything's bending and colors are changing. And again, it's hard to just explaining the visuals is the tip of the iceberg of what a real trip is like. It's all internal. But the world is very different when you're tripping. And at first, that's wild, and your brain's trying to put together how all this shit makes sense. But think about somebody that's on their 40th trip to the funhouse. They might still appreciate the optical illusion, but they know how it works, and they know what's going to happen when the guy steps into the room. And you know, that magic and that wonderment isn't there. Like, your brain's not trying to put all that together. It just knows how it works, you know. I won't go so far as to say like I'm the guy that works at the funhouse, because then it just sucks and it's miserable. I'm still a visitor to the funhouse. I just sort of know that it's not the magic it used to be anymore. But I still trip pretty solid. Who the hell keeps sending me all these messages? All right, hang on. That sounds like something important from somebody. Let me see. If this is Zini, please stop sending me messages right now. It's very distracting. And I think I got an email. I got a text alert that one of my customers has paid me finally. Surprised my wife and friend didn't text me again. Anyway, that's kind of where I am with it. It's not like I'm not tripping or don't experience all the same stuff. It's just that it's not this wild, new, crazy thing, and I don't know how to act, and I can't sit in front of the camera and hold a conversation and whatnot. But as soon as the camera stops rolling and I go in the other room, it's going to be a different story. I'm going to enjoy myself a lot more. Not that I'm not now, but it'll just be a lot better when I'm by myself. I like tripping alone. All right, let me get back to all messages, and then I will get caught up on comments. Let's see. Oh, I don't have any new comments to get caught up on. So you all must have been listening in rapt fascination to my discussion. But last night I was, again, one of the things is when you're walking and everything looks all fucking weird. Obviously, seeing trails is a good sign that you're there and you've crossed that threshold. But whenever I keep my eyes closed a lot and I just look at what's happening inside my head and I just get lost in the music, and I'm just like, I start swaying, I start doing this. I almost look like what's his name, Stevie Wonder, but if I was like doing it in super slow motion, just all this twist in my head with my eyes closed. And then if I'm like using my hands to conduct the music, or my hands are waving around with the music, that's a pretty good sign that I'm tripping pretty hard. I was doing all that last night. I probably got exercise. I was grooving on the music last night. So I listened to two that were like really just chill grooving music. I know it might be corny, but I listened to Deep Forest, and then I listened to Enigma. And I wanted to mix it up. I was tired of listening to that, so I wanted to listen to something different. And I decided I'd listen to Dr. John, because Dr. John's really funky and cool. And the first song they played was really funky and cool. And then the next song they played was almost like a ragtime. If you don't know who Dr. John is, he's a piano player. And it was just so fucking high energy. It was like, oh, this fucking fast piano playing, all this shit going on. And I got about halfway through. I was trying to enjoy it because it's a good song and it's really good music, but it was just the wrong fucking energy. It was like I was on the, trying to calm down, and this was making me feel almost panicky. So I just turned it off, and I put on some Doctor Who after that, and I finished out my evening watching the old Doctor Who. But there's a reason I put on the old Doctor Who. It's something, it's like comfort food. I don't have to think about it. I know the story. It's not, complicated like music that's got all this shit going on. A lot of stuff to think about. It's just Doctor Who. It can just be on, and I can space out and not really pay too much attention to it. I will say that I did notice, those really, really generic AI musics you can listen to that are like, sounds like Pink Floyd or sounds like, this or whatever. I've listened to those kind in the past because it's just easy to put on, and it's just sort of some grooves in the background while you're doing other stuff. I've tried 3 or 4 times now to listen to something like that while I'm tripping for that purpose, just so I don't really have to pay attention to it. I can just leave it on in the background. It can be some music playing, and I can't. It's so awful that I just turn it off. When I'm not tripping, it doesn't bother me at all. It sounds fine. When I'm tripping, it just doesn't make any sense musically. Most songs, even though I don't have the vocabulary for it or the training or understanding, most songs have like a pretty definitive structure and a bridge and chorus and all that kind of stuff. This has none of that. It's just shit that's strung together, but it also musically doesn't make any sense. Most songs will carry you through emotions. They'll build up to something and then bring down or whatever. Whereas this was just like, you get a random amount of time of some guitar riff that was all groovy, and then all of a sudden it would just, and now it's different, and it's a fucking drum solo. And like, I know it still sounds like the same genre of music, drum solo, but how did we get to a fucking drum solo? Like, where did that come from? It was just literally strung together garbage, and I could hear the AI-ness of it. I could hear how they just took real music and to just strung together elements of it to make it into music. And it's just, oh God, it made my ears want to fucking throttle me. So I found interesting. Like, I don't have that kind of an ear for music when I'm not tripping, but on mushrooms, I'm suddenly a connoisseur of quality music. Although, I want to argue about that after I just told you about Deep Forest and Enigma. All right, everybody. I'm going to start winding down. It is 10 o'clock now. I got cotton mouth really bad tonight. Let's see. Yeah, I can definitely get overstimulated. Like, this is chill. I got the lights out. I'm just hanging out. I got some colors moving around. I don't mind the bright lights. Like, I like a day trip, but I wouldn't want to be tripping in the fucking mall. Well, now I might not mind because there's nobody in it. But, I wouldn't want to be tripping at a concert or something where it's busy and noisy and, out in the woods, paddling my kayak, out in my gardens. Day tripping's fun. Day tripping's a lot of fun. Night tripping's its own thing. Like I say, they're very, very different experiences. I don't know if I've ever done a trip that started out as a day trip and went in and became a night trip. That would be a weird experience to go through that shift. I'll have to try that sometime now that I'm thinking about it. Well, I will say I thought about that last night. You said that my texting skills were impressive, but only because I was tripping so hard. I put my glasses on. I went into Phil mode. So technically, Phil was the one doing the typing, not me. But I kept like scrutinizing my text. I would make all kinds of fucking mistakes because the letters kept moving around. I hit the wrong one because they jumped before I could get to them. And then I'd go back and I'd correct it and I'd delete stuff. And so by the time, like, I proofread the shit, is what I'm saying. So it looked like a very nice text, and I did it quickly enough. I will say that I did, I can move my single finger around pretty quickly, but that was like a lot of proofreading and shit to get those texts sent to you. That's why I made it short, and I was just like, I just wanted to tell you that thing and have a brief interaction. And then I was done with that. Reading these comments is fucking killing me. Between my bad old man eyes and having it this close to my face, and just the way everything's like moving around and shit. All right, Shamu, don't do anything I wouldn't do. Oh, that just sounds like a terrible experience. Well, if this is what it's like to be zany, dude, fucking good on you, man. It'll be awesome to go through life like this. There's also the physical component to it. Like last night, I don't quite feel it now. I definitely feel all warm and, limber. Like I get really relaxed. All the pain in my back goes away. I can still feel it, but it's not really bothering me. But last night I was downright tingling. It was as close to feeling like I'd taken ecstasy as I've ever felt without actually taking ecstasy before. Like I just felt amazing. Such a good trip last night. It was just awesome. I had such a good time. I felt amazing. Again, I feel all loose and relaxed and limber. So again, dude, if this is what your everyday life is like, you must be the chillest motherfucker in the world. So I would love to feel like this all the time. Yeah, that's true. If I have to do anything productive. Although I can actually, like I said, you guys saw me doing my tank work and doing all that stuff tonight. I'm sitting here now having a conversation and whatnot. And the last time on Friday night, I know I wasn't feeling well when I, canceled the live stream, but by about 10 o'clock or so, I felt like I'm sitting down here anyway. I may as well just do some mushrooms. And I did a lot of them. And so I tripped really hard Friday night too. Or Thursday night. I'm getting my nights confused. I tripped really hard Thursday night because it was the night off, and I still got up early. I got 7 of my customers taken care of. I got the house all ready for the storm. I got the gas, we got the gas cans filled. I got the generator fixed, up and running, and I got the snow thrower put in position. So, again, the mushrooms don't really, now I wasn't on mushrooms when I did that. But I was on mushrooms last night when I was going around, like tinkering around, cleaning up in the basement and whatnot. So I think it's debatable. All right, everybody. I think on that note, I'm done, unless you guys have other stuff you want to chat about, or if I'm shocked that I've got 23 of you here, although I did title it that it was going to be maintenance and mushrooms. So I kind of, come at your own risk. You know what tonight's going to be about. I knew I was going to drink a lot of mushroom. Didn't know how it was going to turn out, so just figured I'd wing it and put mushroom in the title so nobody would be too surprised if they showed up. But like I said, I'm kind of done talking about the whole tripping thing. You guys get the idea. But I can hang out for a little while. I know it feels late as fuck to me, but it's only just now 10 o'clock. I also feel like my dry mouth is passing. That's fucking killing me. God, I remember getting dry mouth. I don't know. Some people get dry mouth when they smoke weed, no matter what. I stopped with the fucking dry mouth when I was like a teenager. That is so distant past for me to actually get like cotton mouth when I smoke weed. My eyes don't get red. I don't really have any of those outward, issues you get when you smoke weed. So when I do get cotton mouth on occasion, it fucking sucks. Acid used to give me cotton mouth really bad. Mike, how are you doing? Oh, right. I did say I was going to show you guys that plant, didn't I? So you can see that these are all a little bit older because they're starting to brown and curl. But look at this one. That is just bright, shiny, brand new. Looks fantastic. So we now have 4 flower bracts. And look at this new leaf that just opened up too. That's amazing. It's actually still soft. And I know we've got another one that is developing. Oh, no, that's just the sheath that this one came out of. That was a fun little adventure. Is there any adventure we could go on? I have noticed that I have 2 different kinds of trips. I have the kind of trip where I'm really like not agitated or but like antsy. I feel like doing stuff. I'm like no matter what I'm doing, I lose interest in it. And like I always feel this urge to like be doing something. I get up, I walk around in circles, and I sit back down. And then I have trips like this and last night where it's just super chill. I just feel relaxed. Like I'm just cool with whatever's happening at the moment. If I'm watching some show I don't like, whatever, I'll just wait till it's finished. I caught myself doing that last night. I was watching a Doctor Who episode that wasn't particularly doing it for me or whatever. And I looked at the time and I was like, well, I only got like 30 minutes left or whatever. Like, I can just stop watching it. But like, whatever, it's on. I'll just finish watching whatever's there. That made me laugh. Hey, Hamilton, how are you? Yeah, no, I'm not doing a back hair reveal tonight. You guys got to pay extra for that. Good, glad to hear it. Must be the wee hours of the morning for you over there, isn't it? I never can remember where you're from. I know it's somewhere over there in Northern Europe. Well, Zany, if you asked very nicely, I'll send you a private photo of my back hair. I've sent you photos of just about everything else. At this point, why not? Poor Zany. Forgot I put my potent shit on there. Maybe that's what's giving me the cotton mouth. Definitely burns my throat. And this is just a weird custard flavor. I don't know what it really is supposed to taste like. This is snickerdoodle flavor, and it tastes just like a fucking snickerdoodle cookie, and it's really good. But it's only 25 milligrams, so it's not very strong, but it is good. In fact, I need to refill it, so I'm going to wind down. Like I said, it's about 10 after. I'm not getting any more, comments, questions, etc., etc. Oh, you're in Texas. Who am I confusing you with then? I must be confusing you with somebody else. I could have sworn you were over in like the Netherlands or something like a place like that. You said Texas. That's definitely not where I was thinking. All right. Well, stay safe then. All right, everybody. I'm going to wind it down. We got 26 people watching. That's amazing. Although I do usually have a larger crowd on Sunday nights than I do Friday nights, oddly. I've always chalked that up to like people have lives and they're out doing shit on Friday nights. Sunday nights, everybody's just winding down, getting ready for next week. Although a large portion of the United States is hunkering down, waiting to clear the goddamn driveways tomorrow. I'm not going to bother putting my stand up. We can call it good here. All right, everybody. Well, if you ask nicely, Ark, I can send you a pic too. Standing up is definitely different. My whole body just, it feels like, I don't know, it's hard to describe how it feels. Like almost like my body's filled with like gel. And when I stood up, it's all like running to the bottom. Like I almost feel like my legs are swelling up, like as everything runs downward. If that makes any sense. I will do that real quick while I still have you guys here. I'll run upstairs and have a little adventure of my own. I want to check the temperature outside and give you guys an update on that. It was, I think the high temperature today got up to like 15, so it's probably still single digits outside now. Oh, yeah. Wow. 17.3. It's actually warmer now than it was during the day. Steve was just talking the other night about the insulating snow effect and how you got all the snow on the ground and it actually feels warmer than it did before it snowed. So perfect example right there. It was cold as fuck out today, and not that 17 degrees isn't cold, but if it was only 15 for the high, I was expecting single digits, and it's actually 17 and a half degrees right now. So that's warmer than I expected.